This giant here captures some beautiful images, is enjoyable to operate, and it handles low light better than I expected. But it still suffers from some childhood diseases, which I hope will be fixed. Hi, Julius here. I'm a photographer and filmmaker, and I welcome you to this URSA digital film camera hands-on review. With this video, my goal is to bring some light to the features behind the spec list and to answer some questions I myself had before about this camera. I have owned the URSA now for the last 3 weeks. I have used it in different kinds of environments and in real productions. There have been a lot of cameras coming out lately with some impressive features, but usually it's just another DSLR type camera. The camera manufacturer feels to be holding back features, the color rendition is not appealing to me, or the price point just isn't right. I mean, of course I prefer an Amira from Arri over any other camera, but for now it's way over my budget and I can't afford renting it for every gig either. With the Blackmagic URSA, I think I have found the golden mean. Keep in mind that I might not come across as praising and full of hype as you could expect, but that is only because I wish to concentrate on the things that could be better and hopefully push Blackmagic to make this a truly great camera. It has been nice to witness them going to the right direction already. While working on this review, the URSA 1.9.9 update came out a few days ago, fixing some of the points I was about to make about crop marks, slow motion playback, and of course the phantom power and more. So let's start with the reasoning. Why did I choose this camera in the first place? In my professional career as a filmmaker, I had recently encountered the point where my current workflow couldn't keep up with the demand anymore. That is why I needed to upgrade to a camera which requires less time to set up, can handle reliably multiple full consecutive days of shooting, and captures high quality footage which is easy to handle in post. there's no need for accessories. I really like the idea that a camera comes with everything it needs for a professional production, and you can even store the 50mm rods right underneath the camera for follow focus and matte box, but even without those you're ready to go. Sensor heat has a big impact on image noise levels, and URSA's sophisticated cooling system helps combat with that. This should enable long recording times with consistent output and the possibility to upgrade to more powerful sensors as they come available. Which brings me to the next point, and that is user upgradability. I find it really attractive in a camera that as time goes by and sensor technology advances, I can affordably upgrade it, or maybe rent a sensor suitable for the job and still work with the same camera I'm used to. The color correction and grading software DaVinci Resolve comes bundled, which is great. The free version of it has been playing a big role in my workflow lately, and I like to be able to apply noise reduction with it now too. And this last point may come by surprise, since the weight of this camera has been raising a lot of questions, but I find some kind of charm in working with a large-sized camera. A heavier camera forces me into a more deliberately shooting state of mind, just as a medium or a large format film camera compared to a SLR camera. Basically, because I'm not able to be in every place at the same time with a camera like this, I tend to start thinking more about the meaning behind every shot. Also, this may sound shallow, but a bigger sized camera does make an impact on a client. In my opinion, the URSA is a few kilos over the weight I would find optimal, but that again is one of the compromises I had to make. Next, let's take a look at the shortcomings of the URSA. These you might want to take into consideration if you're in the verge of purchasing this camera. In my experience, the URSA without an external monitor or EVF is not usable shoulder mounted. It is doable, but that way you are forcing yourself in straight positions and causing exhaustion quickly. Having the camera comfortably on your shoulder, the outcome looks like this. So, with the URSA's own monitor, the only option is to have the camera positioned so much forward that most of the weight may end up resting on your arms. And this brings me to the biggest grief I have towards this camera. I mean, maybe for shooting from a shoulder I just plug in my Sakudo EVF, right? Nope. That is not going to happen since there is no HDMI output. Coming from a DSLR background, I own many pieces of gear equipped with HDMI connections only, and that suddenly has made things much more complicated. There are a few options for getting them to work via a SDI to HDMI converter or a monitor which can round trip a signal from SDI to HDMI, but that fights right back against the whole idea of having everything ready in camera. It's pretty obvious without saying that this camera is large, but I wanted to point out that mounting this on a tripod can get tricky without a proper quick release adapter. Mounted with an EF lens from the bottom screw only, the camera becomes really back heavy and hard to manage on a tripod. The thread on a camera seems sturdy enough, but I wouldn't make using that a habit. The button layout is somewhat awkward and not very intuitive to work with right from the bat. It requires getting used to, and keep in mind that using the buttons is hopeless in the dark. Also, the buttons are quite loud, which is good for feedback, but can get distracting in some situations. Multiple times operating the camera by myself, I have found it useful to have the 5-inch monitor on the assistant side of the camera. In those cases, getting the camera simply to record can demand some unnecessary acrobatics, and you have to reach under, over, or behind camera for the record buttons. The camera is noisy. I have understood that the URSA features some sophisticated liquid cooling system, but still, right after turning the camera power on, there comes this audible fan noise which does not stop when you start recording. I have noticed the image to bug out sometimes so that it is horizontally offset to the right for about 10 pixels. Those vertical pixel lines are then recorded to the left side of the image, so they are not lost, but this can happen unexpected, so be wary. Luckily this has happened to me only twice during these 3 weeks, and the problem goes away when the camera is rebooted. This camera did come with some positive surprises too. First, because of all the talk that this is not a low light camera, I was a bit worried about the low light capabilities of the URSA. It is not a low light camera compared to other cameras out there, that is correct, but in my tests I have found out that it definitely isn't as bad as I expected. With prime lenses, the sensor can easily pull off situations I thought it would struggle with or not be able to capture at all. I mean, even looking at the histogram, the footage should be totally unusable. Be aware that shooting skin tones in dark conditions may introduce some serious vertical fixed pattern noise, so always prefer lighting when possible. It's nice that the card full warning comes up clearly and in time. There's about 3 minutes of record time left after the initial warning, and that helps in preventing any surprising stops in recording that I may have had using my earlier cameras. Also, I really like the media timeline, which gives a clear outlook of your already recorded clips. Considering that without the top handle, the URSA will be just a huge box without anything to grip on. So I'm happy that they really hit it right with this handle. It has a comfortable rubber finish to hold on to under its sturdy metal frame, and the way it locks on the camera body is impressive. You slide it into the grooves on top of the URSA and simply tighten one hex screw. Do note that all the threads on both the handle and camera body are 3/8 threads, and we'll need adapters for mounting accessories with 1/4 inch threads. The startup time of the camera is good. The way the camera has been designed has had a positive impact on my workflow. Thanks to its sleek design and built-in monitors, the setup time after arriving to a location is minimal. I plan out my framing, bring out the tripod and attach the mounting plate to it. Mount the camera. Check the settings. And I'm ready to go. When in use, the humongous 10-inch monitor doesn't feel so big after all. My first impressions working with it was that the size is just right. Checking the screen for small details when working on set has become easier, and combined with the URSA's effective peaking function, pulling critical focus while operating is much more manageable. The size of the camera meets my needs by fitting perfectly into my airport bag by Think Tank with a lens and a battery attached. Closing the bag requires some forcing with the handle on, so unless I'm just changing the shooting location during a shoot, I prefer to detach the top handle. And this last point relates to the 1.9.9 update, which came out a few days ago. I like to shoot in RAW, but the file sizes are just way too large for me to work efficiently enough. So naturally, I've chosen the ProRes formats, which are enjoyable to work with too. But now that Blackmagic introduced the 3:1 compressed RAW recording, choosing that is almost a no-brainer. Okay, so in this last section, I will share my wish list for improvements in the URSA firmware. 1. Pre-recording. This will be useful when shooting sports, animals, children, and in other reactionary based scenarios. 2 is for 2K recording formats. 3. Sensor crop recording mode. 4. Have the display button to toggle the associated screen off. Not only will that possibly save some battery life when they're not needed, but also I just prefer to be able to turn off the monitor from curious passers-by when shooting in public. 5. When nothing is visible on big screen, maybe give us an option to still see indication whether the camera is recording. 6. In my opinion, the ISO, frame rates, shutter angle and white balance should all be on the same page in the menu. Time and camera name aren't needed so often that they should be first on the list and occupying that much space. Enable start and stop recording via the touch screens. It will be really useful to be able to have effectively a record button on the assistant side too. Have the program button on the big screen assignable for other functions. The only use I have had for it so far has been to turn the monitor off when I don't need it, and even that should be done with the display button. Number 9. The timeline doesn't show the previous clips recorded when you change from 4K recording to HD. This can easily cause issues when recording and creates the risk of losing the shot. 10, which is the last point, but definitely not the least. I wish there was a way to adjust the tint on the big screen or to recalibrate it somehow. As of now, it has a really nasty green tint to it, so I find myself looking at the touchscreens, which are more accurate when it comes to color rendition. So, to wrap this up with the URSA, here are some points I want to leave you with. The Blackmagic URSA is not the right camera for you if you are looking for your first camera to own. Because of its weight and large size, the URSA is limited in many situations, and I just wouldn't go to those jobs with this camera only. In my opinion, especially if you're shooting for web, the image quality of the URSA isn't that much better compared to other much smaller cameras that you should right ahead rush for this one. That said, if you are in the point as I was that you have all the smaller cameras you need for now and are in a need for a workhorse, basically a camera which is there to make your job more efficient, or you just need the image quality for a good price, the URSA could be the right camera for you, especially if Blackmagic is able to fix all those issues too. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe to my channel or contact me on Twitter. I have also a Facebook page where I post all my latest projects and behind the scenes material. So I hope to see you there. Bye.